Hang on 1 second. And there we go. Alright, hello, welcome to my new top 5 video, where I'm going to talk about weapons. Where would video games be nowadays if it weren't for killing loads of people and aliens and shit with weapons? But sadly, we're not here to talk about the really good ones, we're here to talk about the ones that were just an utter fucking crippling disappointment. So basically, every game that was recently released by Ubisoft. Am I right? Huh? I'm talking about the weapons when you first see them, you think, oh my god, I'm gonna kick ass with that weapon, and then you use it and it's absolutely terrible. From enchanted claymores to your trusty shotgun, if it looked like it was going to be a doomsday weapon but was more like a bloody Nerf gun, it could probably be on here. Anyway, enough of this rubbish, onto the actual list. Here is my top 5 disappointing weapons in video games. So first up on the list we have Contra, or as we know it over here in the UK, Probotector, where the only subtle difference is the name and everyone's replaced with robots. So no problems here really. And despite the game being before my time, I still really enjoy it, and its sequels. Although for some reason they didn't call the sequel Super Probotector like Super Contra, they called it Probotector 2 The Return of Evil Forces, which has got to be the most on-the-nail title since Sharknado 2, the second one. I'm surprised they didn't call the third sequel Probotector 3 Oh shit, those evil forces have returned again. But that's enough about the names, onto the actual matter of fact, the guns. As anyone who's played this game actually knows, there is only one gun that is worth a damn, and that's the spreader. So you're having a great time with your spreader and you're killing everyone, but then you find their next power-up and it's a goddamn laser, and then you lose the spreader, which is kicking everyone's ass, and you're left with the slowest beam ever. The weapon power-ups end up being more like obstacles than actual help. And that's the most disappointing thing about the weapons in this game, it's just they don't compare to the spreader. So every other weapon you use is just disappointing. Although the other guns did have their uses at times, the machine gun would allow a constant rate of fire so you can keep on shooting and not constantly having to press the button. The flame gun shoots spiraling fireballs that can hit people in more areas. And then you have rapid fire that increases the rate of fire. But then we have the most disappointing, which is the laser gun. Oh my god, this thing's so slow, and if you press the fire button again after firing a laser, it stops in its place and then you have to get another one out. So it's either really long range and slow or really short range and fast. It's just useless, and if you lose your spreader for this gun, it's such a crippling feeling of disappointment. So yeah, let's put the laser gun at number 5, on to number 4. Now for a game that's fairly recent, Borderlands, the pre-sequel. For a game that has thousands upon thousands of randomly generated weapons, you're going to come across a few bad ones here and there, or disappointing ones. Personally, in the pre-sequel, I thought all the weapons were pretty good, but the weapon type of lasers I didn't really get along with. It was okay, but I just preferred using the other ones. But then one day I found out about a certain weapon called the Excalibastard, a weapon that you could only get by having 2,500 ballast points, and then you could pull the fabled gun from its stone and use it to wreak your own havoc. A legendary weapon that you can only get one per character. A legendary weapon that comes with a description, "Art thou badass enough?" How, I ask thee, how can this not be the best weapon in the game? Well, for some people it may be the best weapon in the game, but for me, it's really not that great. For people who are probably playing Athena or Wilhelm, this would be great, but I'm playing Claptrap, and I went in a completely different direction with all the weapons I was using. Like I said, I didn't really like using laser, so this was not really that useful to me. Also, it has a terrible rate of fire, and even though it's very accurate, it's just a bit boring to use. And the weapon looks a bit boring itself, it's just grey. And with all the other crazy weapon effects the other weapons in Borderlands have, why is this just a single beam? It's just bland, really. I guess at the end of the day, one man's Excalibur is another person's bloody spatula, because this was just kind of meh. So imagine this, you're a young kid, playing Ocarina of Time for the first time, you're loving every bit of it, and then you come to the Goron City, and there's this huge Goron here after bombing this wall. You get to him and he asks, do you want to buy this massive sword? And of course you're going to be like, well, yes, I want a massive sword. You get it, you start swinging around going, wow, this is the best. You run outside, kill people with it, thinking, this sword's amazing. I don't get to use a shield, but this is great. And then it fucking snaps. Then you're just left staring at your screen wondering, why? Why did that fucking Goron rip me off? I think we all know I couldn't really do a disappointing weapons list without at least mentioning the Giant's Knife from Ocarina of Time. It may seem like a cliche to put on this list, but the Giant's Knife truly is a disappointing weapon, especially the first time you get it playing this as a kid. I mean, you spend 200 rupees after getting the Adult's Wallet, which is a quest all in itself, and it turns out this thing just breaks. It just breaks. Why? You spend all that time trying to get enough money and then you find out that this weapon, this new cool weapon you got, is absolutely useless until you have to do a long ass quest to get a much better one that actually doesn't break. But just that original feeling of, oh, it's gone. That isn't matched. That's why so many people put on terrible weapons lists, but this is not about terrible weapons, this is just about disappointment, and God, it's disappointing. And you can't really get more disappointing than having a great weapon and having it taken straight from your hand seconds later. Speaking of which, I really like the game Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. The game's a 3D platformer that's kind of like if you took Crash Bandicoot, Sonic Adventure, Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64 and just kind of like smashed them together and then chucked them at Australia. It had some really cool things going for it. It had a very similar feel to those games, just a bit rough around the edges. It was definitely more of a collectathon style game, but the thing that really drew me in as a kid was the weapons you got to use. Then they were all boomerang based. And the names of the weapons were just simply divine. You have your fire-based boomerangs, the Flamerang, and of course you have your electrical-based boomerangs, the Zappyrang. Enemy really far away and you can't really get him? I know what you need the Zoomerang. And of course my personal favourite, the explosive boomerang, the Kaboomerang. Some man got hired to sit down and write boomerang-based puns basically and got paid for it. I envy that man. But there's this one dude, Sly the Tasmanian Tiger, who has the coolest sounding weapon in the game. It's called the Doomerang. The Doomerang! How can that be bad? Yes, it's cool to throw fire and shit all over the place with your boomerangs, but I want to throw doom with my rangs! The whole game, he keeps peering up with his awesome weapon, kicking ass, and then you think, my god, one day I'll get to use that weapon, and lo and behold, the last level, you get hold of the Doomerang, and it's not that great to be honest. Turns out, it's just a remotely guided boomerang, which, you know, isn't too bad, I guess. Not as doomy as I was hoping for, not a lot of doom going on right now, but at least I can direct him down this narrow pathway. Yay! But the real kicker is, once you've finally got this weapon, you can't use it again. After the last level, you never get to use it again. It's just gone. That's the only time you can use it. Sorry. You're done. That's it. You don't get to keep them afterwards, you don't get like any special unlock privileges later on in the game by completing everything. You get diddly squat, you get nothing!
You lose! Good day, sir!
Why would you build up the entire game, give you just a little taste of them, and then just say, oh no more for you, that's all you get? So not only are they just a remotely guided boomerang, but I don't even get to keep them in the end, and that's what's really disappointing. Apparently you do get to keep them in the sequels, but it doesn't change anything about this game. All the time and anticipation spent thinking about the Doomerangs, and when you finally get them, they're just not as what you expected, and the fact you don't get to keep them just rubs salt into the wound. Really is a big disappointment. There is always one type of weapon in every game it turns up in that I constantly convince myself, maybe this time, this weapon will be great. And it always turns out that most of the time, they suck. And that weapon's the Flamethrower. Flamethrowers are always a colossal disappointment in video games. You think, oh yeah, Flamethrower, I can really fuck everyone's shit up with this. And then you use it, and you realise that every other damn weapon you have is faster, does more damage, has more of a range, kills the damn enemies quicker rather than making them a bloody hazard to go near. And they normally then stumble around for another few minutes, burning you before they die. And God forbid you are fighting zombies. Those gits will stay walking for another goddamn hour before they fall down. And I always think to myself, maybe this flamethrower would be really good, but it never is, and then I'm just stuck with the rest of the game with hundreds of flamethrower ammo that I will never use. Half the time, I'll always go to the standard pistol before I even bloody touch the flamethrower when I run out of ammo. I mean, from Killzone to Dead Space to Ratchet & Clank to even bloody Call of Duty, the flamethrower always seems to be just disappointing. It's a gun that literally shoots flames, and yet every time I use it, it just doesn't have the desired effect. I guess there are some exceptions to the rule. I mean, I didn't mind Far Cry 3's flamethrower, and I do enjoy using the pyros in TF2. But the majority of them are just such letdowns. You may have a different opinion, you may really love flamethrowers, and that's fair enough. This whole thing is opinion based, I mean that's the point of this. But to me, every time I come across a flamethrower in a game, I still feel myself thinking, this will be good, I will enjoy using this, and I never really do. So they really are my #1 most disappointing weapon in video games. I mean flamethrowers, more like lame throwers, am I right? Thanks for watching my dumb little video on my top 5 disappointing weapons in video games. Since it's December, I guess this is my Christmas video, so Merry Christmas, I guess? I mean, nothing says Christmas like video game weapons after all, so yay. If you like this video, I did another one similar to it. It's the top 10 on video game sequels I like to see, in that little box to the left there, if you want to watch that. Or I did a different video that is on the best bits in video games. This one's on Shadow of the Colossus, and I talk about my favourite part in that game. That's the idea of those videos. Anyway, cheers for watching again, and I'm going now because I don't know how to end videos properly. Bye.